Hello, Grinder School. I thought for my blog entry today I would do a range versus range hand history review. I've not done one of these for a little while, so I thought might be quite useful. So yeah, let's crack on. I've selected a hand. I know nothing about it other than we do see showdown, and I lose money in this hand. Generally, this is the sort of hand that I will take for a review, and because it's a range versus range, I've also selected the hand based on the villain in this case. I don't want the villain to be a huge fish because I don't think range versus range applies against them so much. Uh, just briefly before I start, I kind of thought I'd do this simply because I watched Character's first video on his What's Your Range series yesterday, and it inspired me to do a bit of research or a bit of homework, if you will, back on this sort of area. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. An 11-7 player limps from what is under the gun / middle position in this case. If we just check his stats, sorry, I'll move that in view, we can see that, oh well, okay, these stats are actually, they're against all hands. I'm going to see if I can change it, so, oh no, actually, sorry, ignore me. These stats do relate to the time of the hand, they're not the entire collection of stats, so we've only seen him previously limp from middle position, if you want, in this case, 12% of the time, so it's still a strong range. And if we have a look at the villain's caddy notes, we've seen him limp with a middle pocket pair. So when I come to construct his range, I will bear that in mind. I open and isolate from the cutoff. Now I'm doing this against a tight player in position, so although my opening range is 22% there, I would actually say that my opening range would be much tighter. In this case, it would definitely be the top of my range. And he calls. So with this information in mind, let's construct our ranges. So in my range, I'm definitely playing pocket pairs. I'd even play a pocket pair as low as 2-2 in this case, simply because if I hit, my implied odds are going to be great because I'm facing essentially a very good range, and with good ranges they're normally more likely to continue betting, and thus I can take my money further on. I would bet with the ace kings, both, undoubtedly. Same with ace queens, ace jacks for sure. King queens, yep, certainly. No, I'd like to think, okay, maybe queen jack suited as well, and 10 jack suited. I wouldn't like to play king jack off or queen jack off so much, simply because these hands have a lot of negative implied odds. However, just thinking about it, I can see me playing in this situation, especially because it's an opening hand from me, and I am in position. So same with ace 10, and I'm just thinking about suited connectors. What would I be happy isolating a tight player with? I think ace 5 and down, simply because there's a lot of deception to be had with those hands, and maybe a few middle and suited connectors, but I think that's pretty much my range against a player like this when I'm in position. What could the villain have? Well, we've already seen from my notes that he's capable of limp calling with 6-6, so I'd quite happily put him on all pocket pairs. At the same time, would he limp call with a hand like ace king? I'm not sure. Also, just before I go on to that, if this one limp call with a hand like 6-6, then I think it's fair to assume that he's probably not got one of the premium pairs. So I think maybe 2s to 9s, that there might be some margins on that, but I think that's fairly sensible. What else could I see a tight player limping with in this case? I guess there's going to be a few. It's a good question actually. I can't see him limp calling with a premium broadways, so I can't see him doing it with ace kings, ace queens, maybe even ace jacks, because it doesn't seem to fit. He's starting in a passive manner. He looks like he's looking for something, and he doesn't want to commit too much to the hand at this stage. So I think that'll include things like the suited connectors for sure. He's you know, these hands will either hit really strong and he'll continue, or they won't and he'll go away. So I think that's probably quite a fair range. And similar to me, I think he could be sat there with like a low suited ace, simply because he has the possibility there to hit the nut flush and a straight, and you know, if he's very lucky, even a nut and a flush straight, but obviously that's not so common. So I think that might be a suitable range. I'm just looking at it. What else would he limp call with? See, I could just see him opening Queen Jack suited, Queen Jack off, those side of hands. So I think something like that is probably a fairly reasonable range for the villain in this case. And this puts me at 55% equity, so I'm slightly ahead, range versus range. Although, when, as I previously noted, looking at mine, I would expect to be. I wouldn't expect to have so many just unsuited broadways in this case, but for my range, it's certainly possible, and it's certainly what I could represent. And then we see the flop. So 2 of diamonds, 2 of clubs, 6 of clubs. So I'll just enter this into Poker Ranger. 2 of clubs, 6 of clubs, 2 of diamonds. And this actually changes my equity so that I'm slightly behind. So if we just look at what he could have hit with, and I'll just change it to the villain. When he has hit, most of the time he seems to, well, he doesn't seem to have hit a pair at all, other than the board pair. Oh, there they are, okay. So basically, what is going on here? Oh, okay, sorry, I'm confused. So with the pairs, yeah, he's just got the board pair and quite a lot of, well, not really much in this case. Maybe he could start with some flush draws. But it's only really his low pocket pairs that have hit. And 3 of a kind is ace 2 suited hand. He could have a full house with that pair of sixes, and we have seen him play that hand before. And he could also have 4 of a kind, although these last 2 hands are very, very unusual. Oh, sorry, very unlikely, I should say. And then he can have a whole lot of draws, a few backdoor straight draws, etc. But overall, I'm slightly behind. So if we go back to the hand and see what he does, he then donks into me, which suggests that he is going for value here. If he was a fish, I wouldn't give this donk as much credit as I should do in this case, because he's very likely to just get overexcited and donk with anything. But what does an 11-7 player with an aggression factor of 1.8 really donk into me with? And thinking about it now, it probably doesn't work out so great for me. So what would he donk a paired two flush flop with? That's in his range. Well, I think all of his aces up here, he could be trying to take initiative with the with basically the nut flush draw. I think he's betting all of his trips basically. So I'm not gonna relegate that to only clubs. He's definitely betting with. He's definitely donking with 2s. I can't see him donking with the 3s, the 4s, or the 5s. Simply because the board is just, well, let's just take a look at it. It's not really set up for that. He could have a backdoor, but would a tight player really donk on low middling pair with a backdoor straight? or maybe even a backdoor flush. I don't think so. The sixes, yeah, we could, and we've seen him do that before. 7-6 suited. Could I see him donking with 7-6 suited? No, because the 6 of clubs already on the board. The same with the other suited connectors. And these over pairs, the 7s, the 8s and the 9s, I could see him donking with them, only because those sort of hands are only going to get worse, and he probably wants to get value now. You know, half of his value could be basically as a value bet, but they could also want to just try and get me out of the hand, protect the equity that he has got now. And this takes my value down, well, sorry, not my value, my equity down to 30%. Okay, so what do? I simply call. Now I'm trying to play this impartially because I know what my tendencies are, so I'm going to try and ignore that. What would I call this hand with? Now let's just take a look at stacks, sorry, because that's important. The villain in this case is deep stacked, so if I've hit a premium hand, I want his stack, so I'm not going to play this passively. So I think it's fair to say that I probably don't have a 2, or I don't have a pair of 6s. In which case, everything else is kind of open for play. So what I call with a 3 or a 4, so I haven't got 2s, sorry, I haven't got 6s. Would I call with aces? In this case, sorry, I'll work through the premium pairs first. In this case, because I want his stack, I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of the flop so much in this case. I would. Good question, actually. Would I? I should really give him respect for his donk, but I can see myself raising with the aces, the kings, and the queens, just so I have a good understanding where I am. Would I call with ace king, ace queen, ace jack, ace 10 off? Would I call with those? Good question. Yeah, I think I would, only if it was the suited ace. So it was the ace of clubs, so that I could turn a nut flush draw. But yeah, that'd be quite loose, I think. Obviously, with all these aces, I call with any ace too, because I've also got trips. But with the others, I'd definitely be calling with the nut flush draw in this case. King queen suited, king jack suited, I think I'd only call, again, I'd be calling with flush draws here. I'm not going to go become too excited. Jack 10 suited, would I? I think I would, but I don't think I'd call these lower ones. Would I call a donk with a pair of 7s? Yeah. For this initial bet, I have no reason not to. These are all over pairs to the board. And I'll take away these kind of missed, unsuited broadways. And I think that's probably a fair reflection of what I'm likely to call with. And yeah, I'm still behind. The villain in this case has 65% equity. I'm on 35. So, I really need to hit or give up quite soon. And then, yeah, let's see what happens. So the queen of clubs hits. Sorry, I'll just minimize that. This marginally improves my equity. I suppose the problem is we're both we both had a lot of flush draws in our hands, and albeit the villain was being a lot more aggressive with it. But the strength that his initial donk represented is still there. So I need to be careful at this point, because I may have hit a flush and I might actually still be behind. So I guess there's not really much more to say other than follow the hand and see where it goes. So he bets big. He bets $2 into it's basically a pot size bet. It's 92.5% of a. Is that right? My math's awful. I think it is 92.5%. Yeah, I think so. Of a pot size bet. So that Queen of Clubs has not scared him. He's making a large bet out of position. And from the bet side, and this will take the pot to 4.15, then my $2 to 6.15. So the pot will be 6.15. I'll have 7.23 behind. So the bet isn't big enough yet to pot commit me on the river, that is, but it's not too far off. And with certain hands, then if I had a nut flush here, I would call a river bet more or less, whatever it is. So what could he be betting that with? I'll just fold that. He's definitely not betting with them, these 7s, 8s, 9s. So he is really betting with those nut flush hands that we put him with, and a possible full house and even quads. So I'm way behind, if that's what I believe his range to be. What do? I call. I'm not a big fan of this call now that I can see my equity. What would I call a board like this with? These middle pocket pairs are gone for sure. Sorry. Would I call with the ace of clubs on now I've got a flush draw when the pot's getting so big? I'd like to think no, that's the price just isn't good basically when I've got I've got 9 outs. I've got 9 potential outs, and in this case it's not clear whether or not it would be the best hand hitting the ace flush. And I need 25% equity. I've got 18 from the draws. If they're good, and yeah, it just doesn't feel like a good situation. The King Jack suited of clubs, would I call with that? Would I call with the King Jack suited of clubs? I think I would, yeah. Would I call with the 10 Jack suited of clubs? I think I would, because I think the thing is I can't really just call with a 10 Jack suited of clubs, because then if he bets the river again, how happy am I sat there with a Jack flush, especially if the river is a club? No, I wouldn't call with that, I don't think. Not actually, I would call, and I think I'd reevaluate the river, only because I've just hit the 3rd nut flush, and I think it's too early to give up with it just yet. So yeah, I think my range is something like that. But as we can see, I'm still way behind. I think that was in hindsight, I think that was probably a bad call. Especially because his initial donk from such a tight player out of position, followed by a double barrel. Sorry, followed by a double barrel, by a turn bet. He's not representing anything weak. He's not just sat there with a random pair of aces or kings at this stage. Maybe he is, but yeah, I don't think that's the case. And then the river is, for all intents and purposes, a bit of a brick. But this doesn't change the equities at all. And so let's see what happens here. The villain. He basically pot bets it. I think he's wanting me to shove over. And I call. It's a very strange call. If I believe I'm good, then I should have just put the other $1.33 in, but I didn't. So before I see let's see how that changes our range. our ranges, sorry. Yeah, I think he's definitely sat there with one of these hands, so really whatever I have is way behind. The question is, what am I calling this with? I don't think I'm calling with a Jack-10 suit anymore. I'm definitely calling with some kind of nutted flush or king flush. So if my hand ranging is accurate in this case, I should not have called this bet. So let's see what he has. So he has the pair of sixes. So it was actually it was probably the hand that was seen in Note Caddy, although it's ignoring I suppose the holding manager settings and not showing me, and sorry, in showing me hands that I didn't know. Well, showing me hands that I knew about after this hand, if that makes sense. It's showing me notes that I shouldn't yet be able to see in real play. So okay, fair enough. I should have respected his donk and then his big bets. I would expect before I reveal my hand that I got carried away with a nut flush. I'd like to think so. If I'm sat there with a pair of kings or queen, or maybe not, definitely not queens, but like kings or something strange like that, queen X, then I've been far too loose. And I had the ace jack. So what do I think about this hand? Against a different player, so against a maniac, this hand would have been played fine, I think. Because that maniac would have bet all streets with simply trips, probably two pair, lower flushes, etc. So yeah, I feel happy about that. Against an 11-7 player who donks into me on what is basically a dry board, and then continues to bet all the way to the end with what appears to be a controlled bet size. So he's not just jamming at any point because he doesn't really want to think about his bet sizing. Then I'm happy with the flop call for sure. Am I happy with the turn call? He bets pot on a three flush, basically on a three flush paired board out of position against someone who to him would be representing a lot of basically flush draws. So this is really a question about how much credit do I give him, and I think in this case I should have probably given him more. And then his huge river bet. If the board wasn't paired, of course I would have just called down it and taken this pot. But the huge river bet on a paired board, which follows a big turn bet, which follows a donk, which is very out of character, I should have seen, or at least strongly suggested, a full house of some nature. So I'm not. I think the turn call is one for debate, and I hope to get some feedback on there. But I think the river bet should have been a fold on my part. But what I'm quite happy about is that for the first time in a very long time, both the villains in my hands are, sorry, I'll just minimise the replayer, are actually in the ranges that I've set. So, you know, it's kudos to me. Anyway, I hope this has been interesting. Sorry if I mumble. I realise that when people like I just talk and think, it's not always the most flowing of conversations. But yeah, this is my thinking process out loud. Thanks for watching. Please give me any feedback.